Hello, Tamara here. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is Alana McKenzie Page. She's a dating coach guiding you to access your alluring energy and create the love of your dreams. Thanks for joining me, Alana.
Thanks for having me, Tamara. Glad to be here.
Yes, I'm eager to listen to what you have to share. Dating and alluring energy and all that stuff. Attracting people, I assume.
Oh, yes, that's what I do. Help people figure out how to find an effective way to show up in dating so that they're finding the relationship that they want to be in.
Yeah, that is very helpful to, approach it in a way that you attract what you're looking for.
Yes, like. And a struggle these days.
Yes. Yeah, everyone is hating the apps nowadays.
Yes.
So we can either start with how you got started in this or just kind of keep going with what we already started talking about, whichever direction you want to go in, how it works.
Yeah, how I started can lead very naturally into how it works. So I got started with my own journey of not finding love, of really struggling to find relationship for over a decade and feeling really bad about that. Just like I got to this place where I was like, there's something wrong with me, right? Like there's a problem with me. And what I discovered was that the wrongness that I believed I was experiencing was just the way that I was showing up to find a relationship. And so I shifted that, it's like I didn't have to change myself. I didn't have to change what I look like. I didn't have to change my personality. I just had to shift some of the words that I used when I went on a first date and some of the topics that I talked about when I met people online. And that immediately led to a totally new relationship experience for me. And then a couple of years later, I met my husband and now have gotten married and I'm building a life in relationship, which if you'd told me that 10 years ago, that would be happening right now would have seemed a little bit incredible because I could not make it work at that time. So I had a very extreme transformation from, being someone who was I would get asked out maybe twice a year or something, it would be and I was in college or whatever when my assumption was that was the prime time for getting asked out. And, there was lots of dating happening. And it was not the case for me. And so, to experience the shift from being someone who really didn't get any attention, didn't feel like I had a chance at finding a really great relationship, to being someone who did, was very exciting for me. And now I share that with other people because it turns out a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people, they don't feel attractive and they don't feel like they get very much opportunity to go out with people, or when they do meet someone, it doesn't go very well. People are struggling in their marriages, in their long-term relationships, and there's just a lot of difficulty for people right now on earth to relate to each other in romantic ways that feel really good.
Yeah. And I did want to ask, when you said it wasn't going well, did you have I know you said you only got asked out a couple times a year, but did you only get first dates as well? Or did they go past a first or second date back when you were in the struggle phase?
I mean, first, did I want to go on that first date? Often no. Often no, right? It was just a big mismatch for me. It was I was not getting attention from people that I wanted to get attention from, or we would go on a first date, but it would be weird. Or, then maybe I would sort of casually date someone for a month or maybe two, or, 3, but I was experiencing that thing that is very common these days where it's okay, you go on the first date, it's really exciting. And then you have a second date and you think it's good, but then it just starts to, the communication lessons. It turns out, you're not falling in love, right? It's turns out the communication is stilted. You're not having fun and texting and getting that's why I just really call it very specifically alluring energy. There's not romance building. There's not exciting chemistry happening. people are not experiencing, and I was definitely not experiencing the kind of fun element of dating, right? Like the fun of getting to know someone new and flirting and feeling attracted and attractive and having all of that vitality stirred up in me, which is what love is supposed to do for us, right? Like sexual attraction is supposed to be something that feeds you and makes you feel really alive. And I was not getting that. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I hear about a lot of people not getting that these days. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to where you help them
Yeah.
to find the stuff they want. Yeah. And how are you a coach one-on-one, group coaching, or how do you approach the?
I do both. So I teach classes for groups so that kind of the skills of relationship you can learn the skills of relationship. Like this is another thing that I was not aware of, is like there are skills to dating and communicating and flirting and all of those things that can be learned. Like it's not actually just a natural ability that you have or don't, right? Because I kind of assume that it's like you're either fun and attractive or not. No, you can learn the skills. So for people who just have kind of a skills gap, we could say, I teach classes so that they can fill in those gaps and, become a master dater, we could say. And then for people who need a little bit more support, like a little deeper kind of, I would say like for me, right, who I'd been single for over a decade, and it was like, there's something going on here, right? That's deeper than just like, you don't flirt very naturally. Those people often need a little bit more support, or they want more support, like they really want some personal guidance, like really some personal guidance on navigating the modern dating world, which can be full of pitfalls. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I do a mix of both. It really depends on what the person's looking for. And the difference is usually that whether it's a skills issue or whether it's more of like a personal thing. Some people are still healing past heartbreaks, and that's getting in the way of them, feeling that alluring energy and getting excited about someone new. And then other people are kind of afraid, because of a past heartbreak. And so those people often need a little bit more support to fully, relax into the good parts of finding new love.
Yeah. No, that's awesome that you help people in that way. And you also have a book, I understand.
Yeah, I wrote a book for women dating men called The Art of Feminine Seduction. So that's a, kind of a fun, alluring title in itself. But the goal of that is to help women relax more into their femininity, into their bodies, into the parts of themselves that are effective in relationship, we could say, because most of us, not just women, are walking around pretty disconnected from our bodies, and it's very hard to fall in love if you don't feel your body. And we live pretty stressful lives these days, and there's a lot of emphasis on thinking. Many people are struggling with anxiety, which is a very head-based kind of mental way of approaching the world. And when you bring that energy to dating, it is not very effective. So if, the point of the book is to really teach women how to date using their bodies effectively, both physically, because your body's an important element of finding partnership and especially having sex and all of that. Getting connected back to yourself is is very key. But then also kind of moving away from this head focus. There's a lot of strategizing, we could say, that people feel is helping them to date better, but it's actually making them date worse. And when you can reconnect to yourself and your body and kind of draw energy away from your head and your brain and your thinking, you actually become much more effective at connecting, which is what real love is about. Real connection is about being connected. It's not about like, what do I text him in order to get him to want me more, right? Like that's actually
Yeah.
not an effective way to date. So,
Yeah. Hi, Tamara here. Just wanted to break in and say if something you're hearing is making you think of a friend who could use this information, feel free to forward it to them right now. They would probably really be grateful for that. Thank you so much. Bye. Or at least you can have a few more dates maybe, but then, like you said, it wouldn't last or there's no actual connection.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so people are, finding themselves feeling all of these weird things. And it's because they actually didn't pay enough attention to the connection to each other. And they're too focused on, how do I get this to happen or how do I get that to happen, rather than really just looking at the person, connecting to themselves and connecting to the person. And that's what people are craving. Like people crave connection.
Yeah.
And that's why people date, is because they want to be in connection. They want to be in relationship to another person. And we've somehow put the focus on like, how do I make this person do something, right? Like, how do I make this person talk to me right now? How do I make this person ask me out for the weekend? How do I, make this person want to spend their life with me? And what we actually want, and what other people want from dating, is to be in connection and to be loved. And so when you move into that space with yourself and then with the other person, you, first of all, have way more fun, right? Like that's why the 2 years before I met my husband, when I had switched how I dated, I was having a great time. Like just because I wasn't meeting the one or whatever. And I was traveling a lot, so there were a lot of reasons that didn't happen anyway. But, I was having a great time. And then when I met my husband, it was very easy and natural to just be in connection with him and, move into relationship together because other things aligned, like our values and our life goals. And so I just like, I'm here to advocate for like, we need to get back into this deep connection rather than being in this strategizing headspace. So the book is like a how-to guide for doing that, right? And it's got exercises and it's got reflection piece, and it's told through my story. So it's also not just like cut and dry, like do this, do that, do this. I have a hard time reading like self-help books that are like that. Like they're just too fluffy. I don't know. I find them too fluffy. So it's, it's a really like a point by point guide for how to get back to that place with yourself and then bring that into dating and relationship.
Okay. And you talked earlier about flirting too. I imagine that is helpful for this. What is someone that's terrible at flirting or doesn't really know what they're doing? What's like a few easy things they can do to flirt?
Totally.
Like on a date or even meeting?
Yeah. So I like to soften the definition of flirting as a starting point, because people, I think, get up in their head about like flirting being really, like this very specific kind of romantic and kind of overwhelming thing. So the definition I like to scale it back to is just expressing interest in another person. And so again, you can probably see how that's like a very important skill for connecting.
Yeah.
If you use flirtation as an indication of interest, all it is giving a compliment, for example, right? Or telling someone something you noticed about them. And it's a little bit less high pressure. You don't have to be like the most romantic and like over the top, like really like, oh, like, there's a change in people's voice that happens sometimes when they're like trying to flirt really hard. But if that's not comfortable for you, don't do that. Right? Like that's not going to be effective for you as a human who's trying to find a relationship. So where you want to go instead is just to, okay, flirtation for me is an expression of interest in another person. And you can do that all kinds of ways. So in person, what I recommend, especially for men, because you don't want to come on strong sexually, even accidentally, when you are a male out in the wild, in person. And I would also say on dating apps, personally, that is what I never recommend to the men that I work with, that they go sexual on dating apps. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Wait in person. Wait till you feel a little bit more. So instead, you might want to call attention to their surroundings. So you want to draw them into the person that you're talking to into a common experience, right? So if you're out at a bar, you could make a comment about the bartender. Or if you're at a concert, you can make a comment about the light show, right? Like whatever something that you're both witnessing or experiencing, you want to just, kind of like bring the conversation there in a really fun, light way, right? Like that's the other part about flirting. And also important is to not have expectations. So there is no goal in flirting. And that's again another reason why it's so effective as a connection tool, as just like a pure connection tool, because there should be no goal. There should be no intention beyond just saying something nice to another person. Because when you get that expectation in there, first of all, you've set yourself up for disappointment if it doesn't go anywhere. And that's hard. Like that's the actual hard part about dating, is the rejection and stuff that people are really worried about. So if you go in with like, this is not for the goal of getting a phone number or the goal of getting a date or the goal of, having this turn out to be my life partner, you're just talking to someone, you're just expressing interest in them. And then from there, if the conversation takes off or not, you find out. In the online dating space, so that's in person, right? In person, I recommend, talk about something going on around you, or you can say something really nice, a compliment for sure, but that can feel a little bit harder. But online, I definitely recommend compliments. So you want to tell the person that you're connecting with why you feel they might be an interesting person to go on a date with, right? Like I think for some reason, we don't really think about that very much. But when you meet someone online, you should tell them why you thought their profile was interesting, right? Why you think they're an attractive person, why you would even want to spend an hour or, to getting to know them at a restaurant or getting coffee or, whatever you like to do as a first date. Like we aren't doing that enough. We need to be telling people in the online space why they're attractive. And again, not in a sexual way, just, like, wow, you have really attractive eyes, or you have really interesting experience doing something, whatever they talked about on their profile, you want to draw attention to that to indicate that you actually read the profile, and then to also open up the conversation from a place of, I'm interested in who you are. And that usually will create a much better conversation and much more energy in the connection than, people who say, hi, how are you, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. And I'm sure most experts do. Yeah. So what is dating ick?
Yeah. The dating ick. That is a fairly common experience for people. It's definitely something that was a huge part of my early dating experience. And it's turn off, right? Where, at any point in a conversation or a date or, the getting to know someone phase, you just feel like, ugh, it's not this. Like, this isn't what I want. This person isn't it. Like, I associate kind of like a visceral experience with it, like the ick, like your stomach kind of like contracts, or your heart is just like, oh, like crumpling, where you're like, oh, I don't like this. And it indicates a couple things. First of all, it can indicate like there's something about the way that person communicates, or the way that they have hygiene or not, right? Or the way that they think about the world, the way that they relate to themselves in the world, that just makes you uncomfortable. and your experience of disconnect and non-attraction to them in that moment is like an indication that like, that's not so good. So sometimes that is just an indication that that's not going to be a relationship that works for you, right? It's like, that's an incompatibility. Like, that person, they don't work for you. And then other times, what it can indicate is a little bit of emotional unavailability in yourself. And so in that case, it's good to slow down, take a breath, kind of do some self-inquiry. It's like, if it's not that this person doesn't have hygiene and like you can't live with that, right? It's like, maybe there's something else going on for you emotionally, where something that they said reminded you of your ex. And that is actually what's going on for you, is that you are a little bit afraid that something could happen, like what happened with your ex, or that, you're just experiencing like a flashback of something, from your childhood or your past relationships that feels like, this could be a bad thing. Like, this could lead to something not good for me. Or like too much attention. That's a big ick for a lot of people, is like, oh, I'm getting like too much attention. This person feels needy. So that's maybe a good place to look, right? Because that's very common. So, and I definitely had that as well. It's like, oh, this person like needs a lot of my time and attention. Like, I don't feel good about that. So it's like, yeah, sometimes that person is a little bit too much, right? Sometimes it's true that that person's a little bit too much. And sometimes it's also the case that if we communicated boundaries and we communicated our own needs, we wouldn't be feeling that ick. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there was a Netflix show a while ago where she had the ick, but then she was able to overcome it because it was more like an internal thing. I can't remember the show, but it was super popular at the time. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it came up in a couple shows in the past like 5-ish years, that it's definitely like entered the media.
Yeah.
And for the reason, I think that it is such a common experience for people. Like, it's definitely quite if you are out dating, like, you are probably going to get the ick at least once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one time the guy's wrist and watch like looked like my dad's, and I was like, nope.
Oh,
like I was like, no, I can't. And he was like, what? And he was very interested. I was just like, no, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. And maybe it was partly me too with the unavailability, but at the time it definitely felt like it was him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, I guess, is there's like a balance, right? Because it usually is both, right? Like, it's usually both and of like, yeah, you do, like, it's not like his wrist is going to change, later in life. But, also, like, could you still date a man whose wrist resembles your father? Yeah, probably. But also, you don't have to, right? So, like, there isn't a right answer, right? That's kind of the complexity here, is like, there isn't a right answer of like, if you just work on yourself more, you would like this person, right? Like, that's not how it works. So,
yeah. Do you want to talk about how people can work with you, or how they can find you, or like your social media?
Yeah, sure. I'm not currently doing social media. So, yeah, I am. I just wasn't having fun on there, and I'm really about fun. So if you are going to work with me, you'll find out, like, I don't want people to be dragging themselves through life, and I really don't want them to be dragging themselves through dating, like doing things that aren't fun. So I finally realized, like, I'm not having a great time on social media. I got off it. But you can still find me at sovereign-dating.com. And I am, like, on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook. So if you want to go check out my older stuff, I'm definitely there. But the best place to find me and to contact me is sovereign-dating.com. And you can find my events there and my offerings there, my courses there, and reach out to work with me as well. So, and lots of free content too, which also I love the free content. So.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely worth checking out. I have a course on flirtation, for example, and lots of podcast episodes that I've done that have been more targeted about various aspects of dating, whether that's online dating or communication for becoming a more alluring person, or finding, the one using my energetic techniques.
Okay. Well, since you just brought up a couple of those, do you want to talk more about the alluring energy? I know we talked a little bit about flirtation. Is that pretty much, is flirtation in addition to other things, or is it just doing flirtation well or showing interest
Flirtation,
well?
yeah, I would say the flirtation is the communication aspect of it. I work with, through like a tantric and a Taoist lens, with actual like sexual energy. So that's where the feminine part of my book comes in, right? It's feminine sexual energy from Taoist and tantric and, some Western esoteric, philosophies. So the idea there is that people have energy running through their bodies, and that we all have sexual energies running through our bodies. We all people have both masculine and feminine sexual energy running through our bodies. But when we go to attract someone, or when we want to feel our own attractiveness and attractedness to someone else, like when we want to fall in love, right? We can just say that. When we want to fall in love, it helps if we can connect to our own sense of our own sexuality. And so many of us have shut that down. I'll just put it like that. Like a lot of us have shut that down. We learned that it was dirty. We learned that it was unsafe. We learned that it was not comfortable and not valued by society. And so it's just gotten a little bit suppressed for a lot of people. And so if you're not attracting attention, like sexual attention, right? Like that was the case for me. Like when I say I wasn't actually getting asked out by people who were, I found very interesting, because my sexual energy was turned off, right? It was just like turned down. And then the men who did ask me out, which many of them were probably totally fine, decent men, but I would get the ick about them. And then I just wouldn't say yes, right? I wouldn't pursue it. I would not feel interest. I wouldn't even feel attractedness. And so if that's the case for you, and these are the people I work with one-on-one, you need to heal some of that often, right? So it's about unlocking the flow of your sexual energy, and allowing yourself to feel, first of all, your own sexuality, and then feel comfortable enough with someone else's to really allow them to be that close to you, right? Like that's why we call it intimacy. Emotional and sexual intimacy is very vulnerable. Like allowing someone to be that close to you takes a lot of courage if you are shut down or you don't feel safe doing it. So yeah, it's like this esoteric energy principle that you train your body to feel more comfortable being that intimate with yourself and others.
Okay. So that was a great explanation, and intrigue people to go to your site or get your book. So
yeah, there's a lot more to know.
yeah. Touching on it. Yeah. So do you want to share just like a final comment or final thoughts, and then?
Yeah, I think, the message I get from readers of my book is often like, it gave me hope again. And that's I think a note that I would want to leave everyone on is like, there's hope for you. Like no matter what's happened, again, like, I was the poster child for singleness. And now have a really amazing relationship. And I think there's kind of this yes, no message out there right now of like, you're meant for relationship or you're not meant for relationship. Or like some people really just have an easy time finding a relationship and other people really struggle. And I think there's someone for everyone. I'll just say that, like, there is someone for everyone, and it's possible to become the person who easily finds your person and then has an incredible connection and relationship going forward. And right now is actually an exciting time to be looking for a relationship, because there's so many more options in terms of how you find someone, in terms of where you find someone. And, you know, it's possible. It's possible for you to find love.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great place to leave it. It is possible. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on. And if you love this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. Thank you again, Alana.
Thank you, Tamara.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to point out that there is a send us a text message at the very beginning of the description, and you can use that to send an anonymous question or comment. So I'd really appreciate it. All right. Thanks.